So these are our greens that have been growing in containers over winter. They're pretty mature, so we want to pick them. This is one of my favorite varieties of lettuce, a red romaine. So let me trim some of these dried pigeon peas out of the way, and then we'll start harvesting our lettuce. So I prefer a cut and come again. So instead of harvesting the entire head, I just trim a few leaves as I need them and let the plant keep producing. Let's get in here so you can see what I'm doing. So now that I've trimmed a few leaves, you can see that this is actually a mixed planting. There's lettuce around the outside as well as beet greens and arugula in the center. As I'm cutting, you can see the classic romaine heart emerging. When these get close to bolting or producing seeds, a lot of times I'll just harvest the center and have a nice chopped salad. By harvesting the lettuce, we're letting more sun into the center planting of beets. So as the lettuce finishes up its growth cycle and is killed off by the heat, we'll have another source of greens already growing that's more heat tolerant. In a previous video, we planted another round of lettuce and arugula seeds for the cool area of the yard to provide a continuous harvest of lettuce. And it looks like we have some peppery arugula leaves we can add to our harvest today. Oh my goodness, look at the yellow cabbage collards thriving with celery, and I think there's some strawberries in there in one of our large grow bags. We'll come back for those leaves. They look great. So let's look around and see what else is ready to pick. Some more celery. That looks promising. And our artichoke actually came back from last year. At the end of the summer, it looked pretty rough. More collards. Those are purples, but let's focus on our lettuce. We have some pretty mature ones in here. So first we'll do our loose leaves. And this grow bag is pretty packed, so this will add some air circulation and keep them healthy as long as possible. It's a surprising amount in this small container. All right, let's move on to that tall lettuce. So this is what lettuce looks like when it's getting ready to bolt. So it's putting up a long central stalk, and eventually flowers will shoot out and it'll set seed. Now I plan to let most of my collards bloom, and I do have the peach tree blooming and some other small flowers. So I'm okay with picking these. So I'll keep the leaves, and I'll probably put the stalk in the compost. The leaves won't be as good as before bolting, but they'll still be tasty, and I can always use them for juicing. So we have a decent harvest of lettuce today. Let's see, lots of colors. That's always great. Let's have a look around the other side of the peach tree. This is a Florida Prince. It's always the first one to bloom. And we have a lot more greens, a very mature radish next to curry tree. That's a mustard, and a purple collards. All right, so it looks like we have a ton of lettuce. So, so we're gonna get organized. I'm gonna pick a bunch of lettuce first, and then I'm gonna go ahead and get those soaking in some cold water, and then I'll come back out for the braising greens. I think tonight I want to do collards to saute with dinner. So I'll come back and get those trimmed up and collect a variety for dinner tonight. There's a lot. We had a good rain here, and there's a ton of vegetables available. This is the best thing ever. Buying greens from the grocery store are always expensive. Oops, let me get back into some. There we go. Buying greens from the stores feels like they're always expensive. The bunches are very, very sad and small and cooked down to a whole lot of nothing. And the quality is pretty crappy. They're either too dry and bitter or just funky and just not right. So it's nothing like growing your own. Try grow bags. It's fast, it's easy. Here in Arizona, it's super hot during the summer. So like right now, I can put them in bags and have them in full sun. And then when starts getting hot, maybe about the end of maybe March, April, a little too hot for lettuce and greens at least, I can move them to a cooler area of the yard with some shade, and they'll make it through the summer over there, especially the collard greens and the chard. All right, catch you guys later. Let's go ahead and pick some greens. All right, the last second I decided to pick a few more lettuce leaves and celery. Since everything's looking so good, I decided I might as well do some juicing today too and take a big harvest and kind of open some of these grow bags up. So this is a patch of really young green romaine lettuce. So they should be nice and tender and sweet. So great for a fresh salad as well as juicing. And I have a collard in the middle, and I also kind of just want to get more sun in there so it can start bulking up for the summer. And eventually I'll move all of these grow bags to a cooler part of the yard so I can put in my green seedlings for the rest of the summer and have a continuous harvest of fresh vegetables. This is a really big bag. I believe it's 30 gallons. I'll double check and put a link in the description. But around the back here, I have some parsley also. So I usually have a lot of different types of greens in my juice. So it's like parsley, lettuce, kale or collards, and celery. All right. Oh, let's get into the sun. I think we're good. Salad mix. Lettuce, salad, juicing, braising, and broth. Fantastic. So I'm gonna take this. Make sure to like and subscribe so we can juice these together in another video later. Sharp scissors in. All right, let's take this batch in and get it set up so they can stay fresh until we're ready to use them. So I usually bring them in straight away after I finish harvesting, put them in a bowl, put a ton of water, cool water on them, and then a few ice cubes to really chill them so they rehydrate as much as possible, as well as crisp up from the ice cubes. You don't want them to freeze because that'll damage the leaves. But this is usually just enough. And they perk right up. let's head out and grab some greens that we can cook tonight, and then also prep for next couple of days. That side looks pretty good, but I'm going to start in here and get these collards. Yellow ones are one of my favorite varieties, but let's take a look around and see what else we're going to harvest so we know how many leaves to take from that pot and how many we'll take from these raised beds. I'm so glad I put these in. They warm up a lot faster than the rest of the yard, so we have full-on tomatoes and lush greens pretty early in the season, and it's high up, so I don't have to bend over as much, which is really helpful. So I have some basil that I started from seed that are hardening off out here. It's been warm, so they're trying to put on seeds, so I'm just going to pinch them off to keep them branching and focusing on their leaves, so I can transplant them in, then they can go wild. Lots of chard. I don't know about you guys, but when I make collards or any other greens, I tend to mix in some others. This is a Collarmore basil. And our tomatillos, of course, for salsa. More collards, super duper happy. Mustard greens, and the tomatoes went wild and are cascading over the grow beds. Now this is a hot area, so I've also set up a system so that they can be shaded during the hottest part of the summer, but in reality, this is going to harvest as much as I can until it starts getting hot, and then I have a bunch of hot weather greens like Malabar and Egyptian spinach, and other plants that love the heat that will be going in this area for the summer season. Lots of okra. The tomatoes will probably stay in. We'll see. They're doing great. It's like they're going to self-shade. And I have some sugarcane growing across the back that should help block the reflective heat from that cinder block wall. All right, let's start picking these greens. So again, I use the same principle for the greens as I do for the lettuce leaves. Cut and come again, so I just take leaves, I never take the whole plant. And it saves me a lot of work as far as planting seeds, and I just have a more continuous, I can count on a harvest over a longer period of time. And I found that these plants do a lot better in these mixed groupings. It seems to reduce pest pressure, so I get really great clean leaves. I don't have a huge bug problem. My beneficials, there's already lace wings out, keeping aphids in check. I have a mix of collards on this side too. I believe I have some yellow collards, as well as I think these are Utopian Ultra Cross. And then I'm going to move on to these, and these are Alabama Blues. And I'll put a link in the description to where I get my seeds. I love having these heirloom varieties. They're gorgeous, and they are actually delicious, and they do have their own particular tastes, which is fascinating, and I appreciate quite a bit. And as you can see, they produce quite a bit of food. All right, we're doing good. Let's move on to the next section. Their leaves are looking good, nice and clean. Not a lot of holes or bug eggs, but you can see the difference between the different varieties of collards. It's just fascinating. And underneath you can kind of see why. I have lots of flowers and herbs growing in there with them. So that's thyme and elizum flowers. Two of my favorite to grow with pretty much all the plants. They're great companion plants. They attract a lot of beneficial insects. And we have a handful. I know all y'all who cook collards know they cook down to almost nothing. So let's grab a few more. All right. The raised beds look pretty packed, so they would actually benefit from some thinning. So I've picked a few, but we can always pick some more. And I believe this is a very common Georgia variety of collard. And you see the difference. It's so much easier to harvest from these raised beds. I have found in Arizona that plants really benefit from growing close together. I think they create their own little microclimate and can help them, and it helps them preserve moisture. In other areas, that might actually add to fungal problems because you'll have lack of air circulation. It's definitely particular as to where you're growing your garden. But this has worked best for me here, and this is definitely one of my best years for greens. And also mixing varieties. If I just did one huge bed of collards, I would definitely have more pest issues. But I have a mix of herbs, the greens, and different types of greens. So you can see that there's chard, there's mustard, there's the collards, there's flowers under there, and then right next, a totally different plant, tomatoes, who are growing all over their companion plants, but they seem to be surviving. There's garlic in there with them, and other flowers and basil as well. And you see the basil growing right there. You want one? Yeah. Should be a Thai or a holy basil. So that's a respectable amount of collards there for a dinner or two. I like the batch. My helper is helping himself. Let's go. All right. I think we did good today. Let's head in. And we'll do the same thing we did to the lettuce. We'll get them in some water and also add a little bit of ice and let them rehydrate before putting them in the fridge and chilling them before cooking. And today's harvest, we did pretty good. We got lots of collard greens for cooking and lots of lettuce for salads. All right, we're all done. Check you guys next time. Happy gardening.